All right, so today we're going to be diving into the Quran.
Okay, sounds good.
Not the whole thing, though.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we're just starting with selections from the very beginning.
Okay.
Surah Al-Fatiha and the opening of Surah Al-Baqarah. And for anyone new to the terminology,
Yeah.
sort of simply means chapter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what a place to begin. These chapters establish the foundation of Islamic belief, right?
Yeah.
Outlining that crucial relationship between Allah and humanity.
Yeah.
Plus, you'll notice the sort of recurring focus on the children of Israel and their unique interactions with Allah.
Yeah, it's like laying the groundwork, right?
Exactly.
So one thing that struck me
Okay.
was how Allah is described, especially the names Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. Both translate to merciful.
They do.
But even I can tell there's more nuance at play here.
Absolutely, you're right. In Arabic, even slight variations can hold really deep meaning.
Okay.
So Ar-Rahman, the entirely merciful, that speaks to Allah's all-encompassing compassion.
Okay.
Extending to all of creation, Ar-Rahim, the merciful.
Okay.
That signifies a more focused mercy.
Okay.
Specifically for the believers.
So it's like universal love versus a more intimate, personal kind of love.
That's a great way to put it. And this distinction is not just like an academic point.
Right.
Understanding the depth and breadth of Allah's mercy. That's fundamental to a Muslim's faith.
Right.
It shapes their prayers, their interactions with others.
Wow.
Even how they view challenges and blessings in their lives.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not just a name.
Right.
It's a whole way of seeing the world.
Exactly.
Now, another thing that stood out to me
Okay.
was the use of we when Allah refers to himself.
Okay.
Is that about there being multiple gods?
No, not at all. Remember, Islam is strictly monotheistic.
Okay.
The use of we is a linguistic indication of grandeur and power.
Okay.
It's kind of similar to how a royal decree might use we to emphasize authority.
Okay.
Not to suggest that there are multiple rulers.
Ah, so it's more like a stylistic choice that reinforces Allah's majesty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's subtle, but it's an important reminder that Allah is far beyond our full comprehension.
Right.
We can strive to understand his attributes, but we
Yeah.
should never try to box them in with our limited human understanding.
It's about recognizing that there are things beyond our grasp.
Yes.
Now, speaking of understanding,
Okay.
these chapters also draw a very clear line
Yes.
between belief and disbelief.
Absolutely.
You have those who believe in the unseen,
Yes.
establish prayer, give to charity, and then there are those who deny, who are hypocritical, who spread corruption,
Right.
and the imagery used for them.
Yeah.
Wow, it's intense.
It is sealed hearts,
Yeah.
covered hearing, veiled vision.
Wow.
It's not just about disagreeing with a concept. It's
Yeah.
this profound state of spiritual blindness.
Right.
And the text isn't shy about calling out those who claim belief, but whose actions kind of contradict it.
Yeah, it's like that saying, actions speak louder than words, but on a whole other level.
Exact.
It's about inner consistency. Right.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The Quran repeatedly warns against hypocrisy,
Okay.
emphasizing that true belief must be reflected in one's actions and intentions.
Yeah.
That internal dissonance, that's the real danger.
Yeah.
And this ties directly into the recurring theme of accountability
Right.
and the day of recompense, which refers to Judgment Day.
Right. That final judgment where our choices have eternal consequences.
Yes.
Paradise for the believers. And, well, let's just say the opposite isn't very pleasant.
Exactly.
And speaking of consequences, things get really interesting.
Yes.
When we get to the stories of the children of Israel,
Okay.
particularly in Surah Al-Baqarah, what's the significance of their stories being so prominently featured?
Their experience is full of trials, triumphs, and everything in between. They hold
Yes.
universal lessons for all of humankind. We see this right from the beginning with the story of Adam, his creation by Allah, the temptation of Iblis, who is known as Satan in English,
Right.
Adam's repentance and ultimate forgiveness.
Wow.
It establishes the very nature of humanity's relationship with Allah.
Okay.
We err, we seek forgiveness, and through his mercy, we find our way back.
It's this constant cycle of struggle and redemption.
Yeah.
And then we have Moses, right, leading the Israelites out of Egypt,
Right?
the parting of the Red Sea,
Yeah.
receiving the Ten Commandments, talk about epic,
It's amazing.
but then they stumble
Yeah.
repeatedly. The
It's-
golden calf incident,
Yeah.
questioning Moses' authority.
Right.
They even complain about the divinely provided food.
Which brings us to a crucial point, I think, right?
Okay.
The human tendency to forget blessings and fall into discontent.
Right.
The Israelites were given manna and quails,
Yeah.
yet they yearned for the foods of Egypt. You know,
Yeah.
this story, though, it reflects, I think, our own struggles with gratitude and contentment, doesn't it? We often focus on what we lack instead of appreciating what we have.
the grass is always greener syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Always wanting what you can't have.
Yes, exactly.
But it's more than just wanting different food.
Right.
Their complaints sometimes feel like
Yeah.
almost a rebellion against following a higher guidance.
That's a keen observation.
Yeah.
Their dissatisfaction often stemmed from this resistance
Right.
to fully surrendering to Allah's will.
Yeah.
Take, for instance, the incident where Moses strikes the rock to bring forth water.
He wasn't supposed to do that, though, right?
Well, he was told by Allah to merely speak to it.
Okay.
He took it a step further.
Right.
And this highlights, I think, the importance of precise obedience, even when we think we know better.
It's hard, though, right?
It is.
Not to,
It takes constant work.
to surrender to that. And then there's the Sabbath breakers, right?
Right.
Turned into apes as punishment.
Yeah.
That's a pretty strong message
It is.
about the weight of our actions.
It makes you wonder, though, right?
Yeah.
Why include these stories of disobedience,
Yeah.
even if they're meant as lessons?
Right, because it's like,
You know what I mean?
yeah, why dwell on the negative?
Well, because I think they hold a mirror to our own flaws.
Okay.
The children of Israel,
Yeah.
chosen by Allah,
Right.
still grappled with doubt and disobedience.
We're human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are human.
It's going to happen.
And these stories remind us that faith
Yeah.
is a journey, not a destination.
Okay.
We will stumble, we will question,
Right.
and yet there's always a chance to return to the right path.
Okay. I like that.
Take, for instance, the story of the cow sacrifice.
Oh, yes.
Have you heard that one?
That one really made me think.
Right.
They're told to make this sacrifice,
Right.
but they keep getting hung up on the details.
Yeah.
The cows color her age. It's almost comical
It is.
how reluctant they are.
Until you realize
Man.
it reflects a deeper struggle.
Okay.
Their hesitation wasn't just about the cow itself,
Right.
but about surrendering to Allah's will,
Right.
even when it didn't make immediate sense to them.
So it's like they were looking for any excuse
Exactly.
to avoid following through.
Yes.
So how does this story connect to the bigger picture of faith and submission?
It reveals, I think, a fundamental human challenge.
Okay.
Trusting in the divine plan.
Right.
Even when we don't fully grasp it, the Israelites,
Yeah.
despite witnessing countless miracles,
Right.
still hesitated.
It's tough.
It
That
is.
tough.
And this story invites us to examine, I think, our own relationship with faith.
Yeah.
Do we accept guidance wholeheartedly?
That's a good question.
Or do we place conditions
Right.
on our submission?
Yeah, that's a good point. It really does make you wonder how often we miss the bigger picture by getting caught up in the little details.
Absolutely. It's so easy to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also reassuring in a way. So like we're not alone in those struggles.
Exactly. The Quran acknowledges that,
Yeah.
the complexities of human nature.
Right.
It doesn't shy away from doubt or questioning,
Right.
but it encourages us to move through those challenges
Yeah.
towards deeper understanding.
And while these stories often focus on the children of Israel,
Right.
their messages resonate far beyond any one group.
They do. It's about all of humanity, right?
Right. One thing that stood out to me
Okay.
was this idea of not mixing truth with falsehood.
Right. Like a crucial concept.
Yeah, it sounds straightforward enough,
It does.
but how does that actually play out,
Okay.
both
well,
in the text and in our lives?
the Quran recognizes that truth can be distorted,
Okay.
twisted to serve personal agendas.
Right.
We see this addressed specifically
Okay.
when Allah speaks about those who corrupt scriptures, adding or removing elements for their own gain.
So it's about preserving the integrity of the message,
Yeah.
that pure intention behind it.
Exactly.
And this ties into how the Quran positions itself
Okay.
within the lineage of revealed scriptures, right?
It does. It's not about denying previous revelations. But
It's not about replacing but rather confirming and building upon them.
Okay.
The Quran acknowledges the truths revealed in scriptures like the Torah and the Gospels,
Okay.
recognizing their divine origin. However, it presents itself as the final, complete revelation, addressing the entirety of humanity.
So it's more about fulfilling the message.
Yes.
For all time?
For all time.
And that message, regardless of your background, centers on sincerity.
Yes.
In belief and action.
Precisely. What matters most is the state of your heart.
Wow.
The purity of your intention and your willingness to submit to Allah's will. Right. And that brings us to another fundamental principle emphasized throughout the Quran. Free will.
Yes.
There was no compulsion.
Right.
In matters of faith.
It's always a choice.
Right.
To believe or disbelieve, to obey or disobey.
And those choices have very real consequences.
They do.
Both in this life and the next.
Absolutely.
Which brings to mind the figure of Abraham, who features pretty prominently in these early chapters.
He does. What is it about his story that makes him such a central figure?
Right.
Like, what is it about him?
Well, Abraham, known as Ibrahim in Arabic, is revered in Islam as the model believer. His unwavering faith, his complete submission to Allah.
Right.
Those qualities serve as an example for Muslims to strive towards.
Right.
We see this in his willingness to sacrifice his son Ishmael when commanded by Allah.
Wow.
His building of a Kaaba in Mecca, even his constant prayers for his descendants.
He truly embodies that idea of surrender.
Of trusting in a plan beyond his own understanding.
Beyond his own understanding, exactly.
And it's interesting, though, that he's a significant figure in Judaism and Christianity as well.
And that's a crucial point.
Right.
The Quran acknowledges Abraham as a patriarch for all three faiths.
Wow.
This shared lineage emphasizes a message of unity, a common ground, even amidst differences.
So it speaks to the interconnectedness of these faiths.
It does.
The shared roots that bind them.
The common thread.
And isn't it fascinating that the very meaning of Islam, submission to the will of Allah, is perfectly embodied by Abraham's example?
Absolutely. His life story is a testament to the power of surrender. Of aligning your will with the divine will.
Wow.
This concept of submission. It's not about blind obedience, but rather a deep trust in Allah's wisdom and mercy, even when faced with challenging circumstances.
It requires a lot of faith to surrender control like that.
It does.
To trust in something beyond your full comprehension.
It does. And that brings us back to Surah Al-Fatiha, the opening chapter, and its timeless prayer. Guide us to the straight path.
Wow.
It's a humble acknowledgement that we need guidance on this journey. That we can't navigate its complexities alone.
And that journey, this exploration of faith and spirituality, it's ongoing, isn't it?
It is.
It's not about reaching some final destination. But about constantly learning. Questioning. Striving to deepen our understanding.
Precisely. And these early chapters from the Quran provide a profound foundation for that journey. They offer a glimpse into the nature of Allah, the importance of faith and action, and the timeless stories that illuminate the human condition.
It's been a fascinating deep dive, to say the least.
It has been.
So to our listeners, we leave you with this as you reflect on these verses and their messages. What resonates most deeply with your own understanding of faith? Guidance. And your personal relationship with the divine.
It's a question worth pondering.
It is.
Perhaps even discussing with others who are on their own journeys of spiritual exploration.
That's a great idea.
Because ultimately the Quran invites us not just to read, but to reflect, to engage in dialogue, and to continuously seek deeper meaning in our lives.
Beautifully said.